The rain pelted the cracked pavement like bullets, and I stood shivering under the dim streetlight, my backpack slung over one shoulder, the weight of my father's words crushing me. "You're no son of mine," he'd roared, his face red with rage, as he shoved me out the door into the storm. At 17, I was homeless, betrayed by the man I'd idolized, all because I dared to dream beyond his narrow world. The night was cold, but my heart was colder. I clutched the only thing I had left, a crumpled photo of my mother, her warm smile a faint echo of better days. That was the last time I saw the house I grew up in, the last time I felt the sting of my father's rejection. He'd called me a failure, a dreamer who'd never amount to anything. And as I walked away, I swore I'd prove him wrong. I wandered the streets of our small town, the kind of place where everyone knew your business, but no one cared enough to help. My father, Tom, was a mechanic, a man of grease-stained hands and rigid pride. He believed in hard work, but only the kind he understood: manual labor, predictable routines. My dreams of starting a tech company, of building something bigger than his garage, were foolish to him. My mother, Ellen, was softer, her eyes always brimming with unspoken apologies. But she never stood up to him. That night, she'd watch silently as he threw me out, her hands trembling but her voice absent. I found shelter in a rundown diner, where a kind waitress named Maria slipped me a free coffee and a sandwich. "You've got fire in your eyes, kid," she said, her voice rough but warm. "Don't let it go out." Her words stuck with me, a lifeline in the dark. I spent the next few nights couch surfing with friends, but pride kept me from begging for help. I'd make it on my own, or I'd fail trying. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I'd leave this town and its suffocating judgment behind. With the last of my savings, I bought a bus ticket to the city, a place where dreams like mine might have a chance. The ride was long, the seats uncomfortable, but hope flickered in my chest. I was Ethan, the kid who'd been discarded, but I wouldn't stay broken. In the city, life was brutal. I worked odd jobs: dishwasher, delivery boy, anything to keep me fed. Nights were spent in a cramped hostel, surrounded by strangers with their own stories of survival. But I had a goal: to build an app, something revolutionary that would change how people connected. I taught myself to code, sneaking into public libraries to use their computers, watching free tutorials until my eyes burned. Every line of code was a rebellion against my father's voice in my head, telling me I'd never be enough. 2 years passed, and I was no longer the scrawny kid from a small town. I was 19, lean and hungry, with a prototype for an app that could match freelancers with local gigs in real time. I called it Expl. It was rough, but it worked. I pitched it to anyone who'd listen: small business owners, tech meetups, even random strangers in coffee shops. Most laughed me off, but one person didn't: Sarah, a sharp-eyed investor with a knack for spotting potential. She saw something in me, maybe the same fire Maria had seen years ago. Sarah took a chance, investing enough to get Expl off the ground. I worked day and night, coding, marketing, refining. The app gained traction, first with local freelancers, then with businesses across the state. By 21, I'd hired a small team, and we were making waves. The kid who'd been kicked out was now running a company valued at $1 million. But success didn't erase the ache in my chest, the need to face the man who'd thrown me away. I didn't return home. Not yet. I wasn't ready to see my father's smug face or hear him dismiss my achievements. Instead, I poured everything into Expl, turning it into a platform that empowered thousands. Every milestone was a brick in the wall I built against my past. But late at night, when the city was quiet, I'd stare at that old photo of my mother and wonder if she ever thought of me. 5 years after that rainy night, Expl went public. The IPO was a whirlwind: news articles, interviews, a flood of investors. I was 24, a millionaire, and the face of a tech revolution. But the headlines didn't fill the void. I bought a luxury car, a sleek black Bentley, not because I needed it, but because it was a symbol. It was proof that I'd made it, that I was more than the failure my father had branded me. And with that car, I decided it was time to go home. The drive back to my hometown was surreal. The familiar roads felt smaller, the houses shabbier. My heart pounded as I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The old oak tree still stood, its branches heavy with memory. I stepped out of the Bentley, my polished shoes crunching on the gravel. The front door opened, and there was my father, older now, his hair grayer, his eyes wide with disbelief. Behind him, my mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't smile. I didn't speak. I just stood there, letting the weight of my presence sink in. The boy they discarded was back, and I wasn't the same. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, as my father's gaze darted from me to the Bentley gleaming in the driveway. His jaw tightened, a flicker of something, anger, shame, or maybe both crossing his weathered face. My mother stepped forward, her eyes brimming with tears, but my father's hand shot out, stopping her. "What do you want, Ethan?" he growled, his voice low, like he was bracing for a fight. I'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. But standing there, I felt the old wounds reopen. "I came to see if you're still the same man who threw me out," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Looks like you are." His eyes narrowed, but I saw the crack in his armor the way he glanced at the car again. Calculating. Envious. My mother's hands twisted in her apron, her lips trembling as she whispered, "You're doing well, Ethan. I'm so proud." Her words hit harder than I expected, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. But my father scoffed, folding his arms. "Proud? He's just showing off. Thinks a fancy car makes him better than us." I wanted to laugh, to scream, to tell him how wrong he was. Instead, I took a breath and said, "This car isn't for you. It's for me. Proof I didn't need you to make something of myself." The air crackled with tension. Neighbors peeked through curtains, drawn by the spectacle of the Bentley in this quiet, working-class street. My father's face reddened, his pride wounded. "You always were ungrateful," he spat. "We gave you everything, and you ran off to play big shot." "Gave me everything." I stepped closer, my voice rising. "You gave me a roof until it suited you to kick me out. You called me a failure, told me I'd never amount to anything. Well, look at me now." My mother sobbed softly, caught between us. "Please, both of you," she pleaded. "Let's just talk. Inside." But my father wasn't having it. "He's not welcome here," he said, his voice final. "Not now. Not ever." The words stung, but they didn't break me. Not anymore. I looked at my mother, her face a map of regret, and felt a pang of pity. "I didn't come to fight," I said softly. "I came to see if there was anything worth salvaging. Guess I got my answer." I turned to leave, but my mother's voice stopped me. "Ethan, wait." She rushed forward, ignoring my father's glare. "I've missed you. Every day, I've thought of you. Please, don't go." Her words were a lifeline, but I couldn't stay. "Not yet. I'll be in touch, Mom," I said, my throat tight. "But I can't be here with him. Not like this." I drove away, the Bentley's engine purring as the house faded in the rearview mirror. My heart was a tangle of anger and longing, but I felt lighter, too. I'd faced him, and I hadn't crumbled. Back in the city, I threw myself into work. Connect's fear was growing, but so was the pressure. Competitors were circling, and I was burning out. Sarah, my investor, noticed. Over coffee one day, she leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "You're carrying something heavy, Ethan. Success won't fix it if you don't face it." She was right. My father's rejection still haunted me, a shadow I couldn't outrun. I started therapy, something I'd once scoffed at. Dr. Gwen, a calm, insightful woman, helped me unpack the years of hurt. You're not just fighting your father, she said. You're fighting the part of you that still believes him. Her words hit hard. I'd built an empire, but deep down, I was still the kid desperate for his father's approval. I didn't want to be that kid anymore. Months later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was my mother. Her voice was shaky. Urgent. Ethan, it's your father. He's sick. Really sick. He won't say it, but he wants to see you. I froze. The man who'd thrown me out, who'd never apologized, was dying. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let him rot in his pride. But another part, the part that still loved him, despite everything, knew I had to go. I drove back, the Bentley feeling heavier this time. The hospital was sterile, cold, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. My mother met me at the entrance, her face pale. He's stubborn, she said, but he's scared. Be patient with him. I nodded, bracing myself. When I walked into his room, I barely recognized him. The strong, imposing man was gone, replaced by a frail figure hooked to machines. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something new: vulnerability. Ethan, he rasped, his voice weak. Didn't think you'd come. I sat beside him, the weight of years between us. I almost didn't, I admitted. But I'm here. He looked away, his hands trembling. I was wrong, he said, so softly I almost missed it. I'm sorry. The words I'd waited years to hear didn't erase the pain, but they cracked something open inside me. We talked, haltingly at first, about the past, about the mistakes we'd both made. He told me about his own fears, his own failures, things he'd never shared before. For the first time, I saw him not as a tyrant, but as a man, flawed and human. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret. My father's apology hung in the air, fragile and unfamiliar, like a language we'd both forgotten. I wanted to believe it, but years of resentment made trust a steep climb. I was hard on you, he continued, his voice a gravelly whisper. Thought I was teaching you to be a man. Didn't realize I was breaking you. I clenched my jaw, torn between anger and the ache of hearing him finally admit it. You didn't break me, I said, my voice firm. You pushed me out, but I built something anyway. He nodded, his eyes glistening. I see that now. That car, your company, you did good, Ethan. It was the closest he'd ever come to praise, and it hit me harder than I expected. My mother sat quietly in the corner, her hands folded, watching us with cautious hope. I wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the pain that had fueled me, but seeing him so frail softened something in me. We talked for hours, peeling back layers of misunderstanding. He told me about his own father, a cold man who'd valued strength over love, shaping Tom into the rigid man he became. I shared my journey, the sleepless nights, the rejections, the triumphs. For the first time, we weren't fighting. We were listening. When I left the hospital, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. My mother walked me to the car, her hand squeezing mine. He's proud of you, she said. He just didn't know how to say it before. I drove back to the city, my mind a whirlwind. The apology didn't erase the past, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, I visited the hospital regularly. My father was battling cancer, and the prognosis wasn't good. Each visit chipped away at the wall between us. He asked about Expl, genuinely curious, and I showed him the app on my phone. His weak smile was worth more than any headline. But life doesn't pause for reconciliation. Expl was facing a crisis. A major competitor had launched a rival app, undercutting our prices. My team was panicking, and investors were nervous. I spent long nights strategizing, balancing hospital visits with boardroom battles. Sarah, ever the voice of reason, reminded me to prioritize. You've built this company, she said. Now build your family. Her words stayed with me. I started bringing my mother to the city, showing her my world. She marveled at my office, the sleek glass walls and bustling energy. You've done so much, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I should have fought for you back then. I hugged her, the first real embrace we'd shared in years. You're here now? I said. That's enough. My father's condition worsened, and the doctors gave him months, maybe less. I arranged for private care, sparing no expense. He resisted at first, his pride flaring. But I insisted. Let me do this, I said. Not to prove anything, but because you're my father. He nodded, tears in his eyes. It was a turning point, a moment where we both let go of the past. I started spending more time at the hospital, not out of duty, but because I wanted to. We talked about small things, old fishing trips, my mother's cooking, the time I broke his toolbox as a kid. The memories weren't all good, but they were ours. One day, he grabbed my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. I was wrong about you, Ethan, he said. You're a better man than I ever was. I didn't know how to respond. The boy in me wanted to sob, to tell him how much I'd needed to hear that. Instead, I squeezed his hand back. We're both still learning, I said. As winter set in, Connect's fear rebounded. We rolled out new features, regaining our edge. The press called it a comeback. But to me, it was just another step. The real victory was at the hospital, where my father and I were rebuilding something I'd thought was lost forever. On Christmas Eve, I brought a small tree to his room, decorated with lights and ornaments. My mother laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. As we set it up, my father, weak but awake, managed to smile. You always were stubborn, he said. Guess that's why you made it. We spent the evening together, the three of us, sharing stories in silence. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a family again. The hospital became a second home, its sterile halls a backdrop to moments I never thought I'd have. My father's strength ebbed, but his spirit clung on, fueled by our new, fragile bond. Each visit felt like a gift, a chance to rewrite the ending of our story. One evening, as snow fell outside, he asked me to bring my laptop. Show me what you've built, he said, his voice faint but curious. I pulled up Connect's dashboard, walking him through the platform, how it connected people, how it changed lives. His eyes, dimmed by illness, lit up. You did this, he said, almost to himself. My boy did this. I swallowed hard, the weight of his pride settling over me. For years, I'd chased success to prove him wrong. But now, his approval meant more than any stock price. My mother, sitting beside him, reached for my hand. We should have believed in you, she said. I'm so sorry. I shook my head. We're here now. That's what matters. But life, as always, had other plans. A week later, I got a call from Sarah. A major investor was pulling out, spooked by market volatility. Connect's stock was tanking, and rumors of a buyout were swirling. I spent days in crisis mode, rallying my team, pitching to new investors. The pressure was crushing, but I couldn't let my father see me falter. Not now. I kept up the hospital visits, hiding my stress behind a smile. My father noticed anyway. You look tired, he said one day, his voice sharp despite his weakness. What's going on? I hesitated, then told him everything to investor. The stock, the fear of losing what I'd built. He listened, his face unreadable. When I finished, he said, You'll figure it out. You always do. It was simple, but it was enough. His faith in me, something I'd craved my whole life, gave me the strength to keep going. I returned to the city and threw myself into saving Connect's fear. We pivoted, cutting costs and launching a new marketing campaign. Slowly, the tide turned. The stock stabilized, and a new investor came on board. The crisis wasn't over, but we were fighting. Back at the hospital, my father's condition deteriorated. The doctors were blunt: weeks, maybe days. I started staying overnight, sleeping in a chair by his bed. My mother and I took turns keeping vigil, sharing quiet moments filled with memories and unspoken love. One night, she told me about their early years, how my father had dreamed of owning his own garage, how life's disappointments had hardened him. "He loved you," she said. "He just didn't know how to show it." I nodded, understanding more than I ever had. My father wasn't a villain. He was a man shaped by his own struggles. I wished I'd known that sooner, but I was grateful to know it now. One morning, he woke up lucid, his eyes clear. "Ethan," he said, his voice steady, "I need you to promise me something." "Anything," I said, leaning closer. "Take care of your mother. And don't let this change you." He gestured weakly to the machines. "The room. You're more than my mistakes." I promised, my voice breaking. That night, he slipped away, peaceful and surrounded by family. My mother and I held each other, grieving not just his loss, but the years we'd lost to pride and misunderstanding. The funeral was small, just close family and a few neighbors. I spoke, my voice steady as I shared stories of my father's strength, his flaws, and the man he became in the end. The Bentley sat outside, a quiet reminder of the journey that brought us here. After the service, my mother asked to move to the city with me. "I want to be close to you," she said. "I've missed too much already." I agreed, and we started a new chapter. Expl was thriving again, but my focus shifted. I launched a foundation to help homeless youth, kids like I'd been, giving them the tools to chase their dreams. Every scholarship, every mentorship, felt like a tribute to the boy who'd walked away from his father's rejection. As spring bloomed, I drove my mother to our new homey, a modest house with a garden she loved. The Bentley was gone, traded for something practical. I didn't need it anymore. The symbol had served its purpose. Life after my father's death was a quiet kind of chaos. The grief was raw, a constant ache, but it was laced with gratitude for the reconciliation we'd found. My mother settled into the city, her days filled with gardening and volunteering at the foundation I'd started. She was healing, and so was I. Expl was back on track, stronger than ever. The crisis had forced us to innovate, and our new features, AI-driven job matching, real-time feedback, set us apart. The press called me a visionary, but I felt more like a survivor, piecing together a life from the fragments of my past. I visited my father's grave often, leaving small tokens, a wrench, a photo, a note. Each visit was a chance to reflect, to forgive. Therapy with Dr. Nguyen continued, helping me untangle the guilt and anger that still lingered. "You're not just Ethan, the CEO," she said. "You're Ethan, the son, the dreamer, the man who didn't give up." Her words grounded me. I started mentoring at the foundation, working with kids who reminded me of myself, angry, ambitious, desperate for a chance. One boy, Marcus, was 17, with a sharp mind and a chip on his shoulder. I saw my own fire in him and made it my mission to guide him. "You don't need anyone's permission to succeed," I told him. "Just keep going." Marcus became a regular at the foundation, learning to code, pitching ideas. Watching him grow reminded me why I'd fought so hard. Success wasn't just about money or headlines. It was about impact, about giving others the chance I'd clawed my way to. My mother and I grew closer, too. She shared stories I'd never heard, how she'd wanted to stand up to my father that night, but feared losing him, too. "I was weak," she admitted, tears in her eyes. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." We rebuilt our relationship, brick by brick. Sunday dinners became a ritual, her cooking filling the house with warmth. She met Sarah, who became a friend, and even joined me at tech events, her pride in me radiant. For the first time, I felt like I had a home again. But the past wasn't done with me. One day, I got a letter from an old neighbor, Mrs. Carter. She'd found something in my father's garage, a box of my old things. Sketches and notebooks filled with my teenage dreams. He kept them. She wrote, "I think he always believed in you. In his own way." I drove to the old house to pick up the box. Walking through the empty rooms felt like stepping into a memory. The box was heavy, filled with my old journals, crude app designs, even a letter I'd written to my father but never sent. In it, I'd poured out my hurt, my dreams, my need for his approval. Reading it now, I realized how far I'd come. I took the box home and showed it to my mother. She cried, tracing the pages with her fingers. "He was proud," she said. "He just didn't know how to tell you." That night, I sat alone, flipping through the notebooks. Each page was a reminder of the kid who'd refused to give up, even when the world turned its back. I felt a surge of gratitude for Maria, for Sarah, for my mother, for the father I'd finally understood. Exp's next milestone was a global expansion. We launched in Europe, then Asia, connecting millions. The foundation grew, too, with Marcus leading a coding bootcamp for other kids. I watched him shine, knowing I'd made a difference. As summer approached, I took my mother on a trip to a quiet beach town, far from the city's noise. We walked along the shore, the waves washing away the last of my anger. "You've given me a second chance," she said, her voice soft. "I won't waste it." I smiled, the sun warm on my face. "Neither will I." The beach trip with my mother marked a turning point. We were no longer just surviving. We were living. She'd found purpose in the foundation, mentoring kids with a warmth that made them feel seen. I saw my father in her strength, but without the hardness that had defined him. Back in the city, Expl was soaring. The global launch was a success, and we were now a household name. But with success came new challenges, lawsuits from competitors, demands from shareholders. I navigated them with the same grit that had gotten me through those early, hungry years. Sarah, now a partner, was my anchor. "You've got this," she'd say, her confidence infectious. I leaned on my team, too. Marcus, now a coder at Expl, brought fresh ideas, his energy a reminder of why I'd started this. We were more than a company. We were a community, building something that mattered. Every late night, every tough decision, was worth it when I saw the impact freelancers finding work. Families supported, dreams realized. But the past still tugged at me. I kept my father's box of notebooks on my desk, a reminder of where I'd come from. One evening, I found a note tucked inside one. In his handwriting, Ethan's ideas. "Don't throw away." It was dated a year after he'd kicked me out. He'd kept my dreams, even when he couldn't face me. I showed the note to my mother. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "He was a stubborn man," she said, "but he loved you, in his own broken way." Her words settled something in me. I'd spent years proving myself to a ghost, but now I could let go. I didn't need his approval anymore. I had my own. The foundation became my passion. We expanded, opening centers in other cities, offering scholarships and tech training. Marcus thrived, mentoring others with a fire I recognized. "You changed my life," he told me one day, his voice thick. "I want to do that for someone else." I clapped his shoulder, proud. "You already are." Life wasn't perfect. There were still long days, sleepless nights, moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush me. But I had my mother, my team, my purpose. I was no longer the boy under the streetlight, abandoned and alone. I was Ethan, the man who'd built a life from nothing. One evening, my mother and I sat in her garden, the air sweet with jasmine. She looked at me, her eyes soft. You've given me so much, she said. Not just the house, the foundation, but you, my son. I hugged her, the ache of years fading. We've got each other now, I said. That's enough. As fall approached, I planned a surprise. The foundation's first gala, a fundraiser to support more kids. My mother helped organize it, her energy tireless. The night was a success. Hundreds attended, from tech moguls to the kids we'd helped. Marcus gave a speech, his voice steady, sharing his story of transformation. The crowd roared, and I felt my father's presence, not as a shadow, but as a quiet pride. After the gala, my mother and I stood outside, the city lights sparkling. He'd be proud, she said, her voice soft. Not just of you, but of us. I nodded, the weight of the past finally lifting. I know. The gala's success marked a new chapter. The foundation grew, touching lives across the country. Kids like Marcus were building futures, and I felt a purpose deeper than any stock market win. But the real victory was personal. My mother and I had found each other, and in doing so, I'd found peace. Connect's fear continued to thrive, but I stepped back from the day-to-day. I hired a CEO, trusting my team to carry the vision. My focus shifted to the foundation, to mentoring, to living a life that honored the boy I'd been and the man I'd become. My mother flourished. She started a community garden at the foundation, teaching kids to grow their own food. Her laughter filled our home, a sound I'd missed for years. We traveled together, small trips, big adventures making up for lost time. She told me stories of my father, the good ones I'd forgotten, and I realized healing wasn't about erasing the past, but embracing it. One day, I got a call from Mrs. Carter, the neighbor. She'd found another box in the garage, more of my father's things. I drove back to the old house, now sold to a young family. The box held letters, photos, a life I hadn't known. One letter, written to me but never sent, stopped me cold. Ethan, it read, I was wrong. You're the best of me. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I sat in the Bentley kept for sentimental reasons now and cried. Not for the pain, but for the love I'd almost missed. I brought the letter to my mother, and we read it together, her hand in mine. He's with us, she said. Always. The years passed, and the foundation became a beacon. Marcus launched his own startup, crediting me as his inspiration. I watched him succeed, knowing I'd kept my promise to my father to help others, to stay true to myself. On the 10th anniversary of that rainy night, I stood at my father's grave, my mother by my side. I left a photo of us, me, her, Marcus, the foundation team. We made it, I whispered. Together. Driving home, the city lights blurred, not with tears, but with hope. The boy who'd been kicked out had returned, not just with a luxury car, but with a life full of meaning. My father's explosive reaction had faded, replaced by love, forgiveness, and a legacy that would outlive us all.